Hello everyone and welcome to Kiki Crochet. In this video tutorial we're going to learn how to crochet step by step the moss stitch. This is a very known knitting stitch, but we're going to learn how to crochet it. This is a sample that I made with a chain of 36, and what I decided is to make small samples of stitches, and then probably in the end we're going to see how to attach all those samples and make a blanket. So this is one of the samples and it's the moss stitch, and let's see how to start. For my sample, here I'm going to make a smaller sample. I am crocheting with a 5mm crochet hook, and this is a medium weight yarn. It's Alize Super Lana Midi. It's a medium weight yarn. I started with a chain of 20, and the rule for this stitch is any even number of chains to begin with. So you can have the same results with 20 chains, with 24 chains, 30, 36, 50, and so on. We want an even number of stitches in our beginning chain. So when we start with the first row of single crochet, out of the total number of chains, we're going to have one less stitch. So I have 20 chains. In the end of row 1, I'm going to have a total of 19 single crochet. So skip the first chain, put your hook in the second one, and work your first single crochet. And one single crochet across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and our last stitch, 19. Now we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work. This is going to be the right side of our stitch, and this is going to be the wrong side, the one that we just made. Okay, so now we're going to learn how to crochet, how to do the moss stitch. So starting from the first stitch, I'm going to work one single crochet. Now put your hook in the second stitch, grab the yarn and pull it through the stitch. Now if I take the yarn and pull it through the 2 loops, I'm going to have a single crochet. Instead of that, I'm going to make 3 chains right here in the first loop. So grab the yarn, pull it through the first loop, chain 1. Grab the yarn, pull it through the first loop, chain 2. Grab the yarn, pull it through the first loop, chain 3. Okay, now in order to close the stitch, grab the yarn and pull through those 2 loops. See how we made a tall stitch by making those 3 chains? Now in order to make those little bubbles to make the moss stitch, put your hook in the next stitch and work a single crochet. So see how we took down the stitch by working the single crochet and how it's popping out over here. So in the next stitch, again, we're going to make the moss stitch. So in every second stitch, we're going to creating the moss stitch. So put your hook in the next stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through the stitch, and right here in the first loop, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now close the stitch by grabbing the yarn and pulling it through those 2 loops. In the next stitch, we're going to work one single crochet. So by working the single crochet, the chain 3 comes down and it's popping out to create our stitch. Now in the next stitch, again, we're going to create the moss. So now chain 3 in this first loop. 1, 2, and 3. Now grab the yarn and pull it through those 2 loops. Next stitch, work a single crochet. Next stitch, we're going to create the moss stitch. So chain 3 in this first loop over here. 1, 2, and 3. Grab the yarn and pull it through the first 2 loops. Now in the next stitch, work a single crochet. Next stitch, we're going to work the moss stitch. So chain 3 in this first loop over here. 1, 2, and 3. Grab the yarn and pull it through those 2 loops. Next one, single crochet. Next one, the moss stitch. 1, 2, 3. Close the stitch by grabbing the yarn and pulling through those 2 loops. Next stitch, a single crochet. Next stitch, grab the yarn and work 3 chains in this first loop. 1, 2, and 3. Grab the yarn, pull through 2 loops. Now in the next stitch, work a single crochet. Next stitch is going to be the moss stitch, so work 3 chains. 1, 2, and 3. Grab the yarn and pull through those 2 loops. Oops. Okay, so grab the yarn and pull through those 2 loops and work a single crochet in the next stitch. Work the moss stitch in the next stitch, which is the second from the last stitch. 1, 2, 3, and close the stitch, and work a single crochet in the last stitch for this row. So by working the single crochet in the last stitch for this row, those 3 chains that we worked in the previous stitch, it took it down, so it's popping out as well as all the other stitches for this row. So this is how row number 2 looks like. Now we're going to start row number 3, chain 1, and turn your work. When we're in the wrong side of our stitch, we are going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch across. Starting from the first stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and our last stitch, 19. Chain 1 and turn your work. So now we're in the good side again, so we're going to create the moss stitch. Now you can choose to repeat rows 2 and 3 up until you complete your work, but this way all of your stitches, the moss stitch, they're going to be aligned with each other. What I prefer is in the next row to have my moss stitch, those little bubbles, to fall in between the bubbles from row number 2. So in order to do that, I'm going to start by making the moss stitch in the first stitch of the row. Okay, so put your hook in the first single crochet, grab the yarn and pull it through the stitch, and now work your chain 3 in the first loop. 1, 2 and 3. Grab the yarn and pull it through the 2 loops. Now in the very next stitch you're going to work a single crochet in the next stitch. Okay, so see how the first stitch pops out as all the other ones. In the next stitch I'm going to work the moss stitch. So chain 3 in the first loop, 1, 2 and 3. Grab the yarn, pull it through the 2 loops, and in the next stitch work a single crochet. So we're doing the same exact thing. In every second stitch we're working the moss stitch. Okay, so keep doing that up until you are in the second from the last stitch. I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to finish the row, because right here the last stitch is going to be a moss stitch, but we do not have a stitch right next to it to work a single crochet and take it down so it pops out. So we have to see how to work that last stitch together. I'm almost done with my row, and I've worked the moss stitch, the single crochet, and I'm left with the last stitch for this row, in which I'm going to make the moss stitch again. So put your hook in the last stitch, take the yarn, pull it through the stitch, work your 3 chains in the first loop, 1, 2, 3, and take the yarn and pull it through the 2 loops. So see, we do not have a stitch right next to it to work the single crochet and take the stitch down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hook in the same stitch and I'm going to work a slip stitch. This slip stitch does not count as a stitch for the next row, so I'm just going to chain 1 and start row number 5, which is going to be 1 single crochet in every stitch, starting from the first stitch over here, which is the moss stitch that I did in the previous row that I just completed. So again, in row number 5, which is the wrong side, we're going to work 1 single crochet across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and our last stitch, 19 single crochet. Chain 1 and turn your work. So from now on you're going to go ahead and repeat rows 2 through row 5. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start repeating the steps from row 2. So I'm going to start with 1 single crochet, then the moss stitch, single crochet, moss, single crochet, moss, up until you finish the row with 1 single crochet. Then you're going to do the repetitions for row number 3, which is the wrong side, and you're working 1 single crochet across. Then turn your work and work the repetitions for row number 4, in which you start with the moss, then single crochet, moss, single crochet, and you finish with the moss stitch, in which we're going to finish with the single crochet, with the slip stitch as I showed earlier. And then lastly, row number 5, which is 1 single crochet across. So let's start by doing this row together, which is the repetitions of row number 2. So start with your single crochet, then the moss stitch, 1, 2, 3 chains, single crochet in the next stitch, moss in the next one, 1, 2, 3, close the stitch, single crochet in the next one, oops, single crochet in the next one. So keep working the moss stitch in every second stitch as we did in row number 2. So see, those little bubbles are aligned with those in row number 2, but fall in between with those in row number 4. So keep repeating up until you complete the row. Okay, I'm almost done in this row. This is second to the last stitch, which I made a moss, and the last stitch for this row, which is a single crochet. Chain 1, turn your work, in which you're going to follow the steps from row number 3, which is 1 single crochet across. Then row number 4, in which you're going to start with the moss starting from the beginning of the row, and then row number 5, which is again 1 single crochet across in the wrong side. So this is how our stitch looks like. Okay, and this is how it looks in a bigger piece, a bigger sample, which I started with 36 chains, and I followed the same exact steps as we did right now. So follow rows through row number 5 in order to complete your work. And you can use this stitch to make a bag, a purse, a backpack. You can make blankets out of it. You can make a scarf. You can use it to make jackets. It's a very easy and a very steady, very nice stitch. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and if you like the video, please press like and leave a comment. Thanks again. Bye bye.